There is a specific kind of loneliness that nobody warns you about. It is not the loneliness of being surrounded by the wrong people. It is not the loneliness of being misunderstood. It is something stranger and something deeper than both of those. It is the loneliness of waking up one morning, looking in the mirror, and not recognizing the person staring back at you. Not because anything dramatic happened, not because you had a breakdown or a loss or a crisis in the traditional sense, but because somewhere along your journey, after a spiritual experience, after a moment of real clarity, after finally seeing through the noise of the life you had been living, something quietly died inside you. And the life you built around that something, it does not fit anymore. The career that used to feel urgent now feels like someone else's emergency. The goals you used to chase now feel like running a race you never agreed to enter. The version of you that knew exactly what it wanted, that woke up with drive and direction and purpose, that version is just gone. And the terrifying part? You do not even miss it the way you think you should. You just feel numb, hollow, like a house where someone used to live. If that is where you are right now, I need you to stay with me. Because what I am about to share might be the first explanation you have heard that actually makes sense of what you are going through. Carl Jung, one of the most important minds in the history of psychology, spent decades studying people who went through exactly this, and he made an observation that almost nobody in the spiritual world talks about openly. He said that the most psychologically dangerous moment in a person's life is not the breakdown. It is not the dark night of the soul. It is not even the awakening itself. The most dangerous moment is the morning after the awakening, when the clarity has settled, when the noise has gone quiet, and you realize, with a kind of cold, sober shock, that you have absolutely no idea who you are anymore. Jung had a name for this. He called it the death of the persona, and he believed it was one of the most misunderstood, most misdiagnosed, and most unnecessarily suffered through experiences in modern human life. Here is what Jung discovered. From the very first years of your life, you started building a mask, not a dishonest one, not a manipulative one, a necessary one. You learned what version of yourself got love, what version got approval, what version was safe to show the world and what version had to stay hidden. Over time, that mask became so comfortable, so automatic, that you stopped thinking of it as a mask at all. You thought it was your face. Jung called this the persona, from the Latin word for the masks worn by actors in ancient theatre. And your persona was the engine behind everything. Your ambition, your goals, your drive, your entire sense of what mattered and why, all of it was powered by the persona's need to be seen, validated, approved of, and safe. Then awakening happened, and in one disorienting moment of clarity, you saw the mask for what it was. You saw that the career was not really about passion. It was about proving something. You saw that the relationship patterns were not really about love. They were about managing loneliness. You saw that the whole architecture of your ambition was built not on what you actually wanted, but on the anxious need to feel like enough. And the moment you truly saw that, the persona began to dissolve. Jung said, "This is not a malfunction. This is not depression. This is not a spiritual mistake. This is the most important thing that can happen to a human psyche." But here is the part that nobody tells you. When the persona dies, it takes everything it was powering with it. Your motivation, your sense of direction, your ability to care about the things you used to care about. All of it goes dark because all of it was running on the persona's electricity. You did not lose yourself. You lost the version of yourself that was never really you. And that distinction, as painful as it is the beginning of everything real. I want to describe something Jung observed in patients again and again, because you may recognize it immediately. Imagine someone who had spent years being exceptionally good at their life, high-performing, intentional. the kind of person who always knew what they were working toward. Then, through meditation, through a loss, through a sudden moment of seeing clearly, they wake up. And what they discover beneath all that competence and direction is something they were never prepared for. A self they do not recognize, desires they cannot name, a silence where the instructions used to be. They sit across from Jung and say some version of the same thing. I used to know exactly what I wanted. Now I wake up in the morning and I do not know who is supposed to get out of bed. Jung would look at them and say, "You are not broken. You are not regressing. You are standing at the exact threshold that every genuine transformation requires." He called this moment the encounter with the shadow. The shadow is everything you buried, every part of yourself that the persona decided was not acceptable, not productive enough, not likable enough, not safe enough to express. Your creativity, your grief, your real desires, your fear, your rage, all of it, packed away in the dark because the persona did not have room for it. Awakening does not just remove the mask, it opens the door to everything the mask was hiding, and standing in front of that for the first time, without the persona's noise to drown it out, is genuinely disorienting. Like meeting a stranger who shares your entire history. Here is where Jung diverged completely from what most spiritual traditions teach. Most traditions say, this discomfort is an obstacle, push through it, meditate harder, raise your vibration, get back to flow. Jung said, this discomfort is the curriculum. The emptiness is not the absence of your life, it is the raw material your real life is being built from. He borrowed a concept from medieval alchemy to describe it. The alchemists believed that before base metal could be transformed into gold, it had to first be reduced to its most fundamental, formless state. They called this the Prima materia, the first matter, the nothing from which everything new is possible. Jung used this as a map for the psyche. Before your authentic self can emerge, the constructed self has to fully come apart, not partially, not conveniently, completely. And the reason this phase feels like losing your motivation, the reason nothing seems to matter, the reason you cannot make yourself care, is not because you are failing. It is because your psyche is doing exactly what it needs to do. It is refusing to rebuild the old structure. It is holding space for something true. Jung called people who found this phase unbearable, not weak, but unprepared. Unprepared because nobody had told them that dissolution is not destruction, that stillness is not stagnation, that feeling like a stranger in your own life is not the end of knowing yourself. It is the beginning. Jung did not just observe this process. He developed specific ways of moving through it consciously. And the first one might surprise you. He called it active imagination. And it is not visualization. It is not manifesting. It is something far more honest than either of those. Most people respond to the unfamiliar parts of themselves with one of two strategies. They suppress them, push them back down, stay busy enough not to feel them. Or they are completely overwhelmed by them, flooded with feelings they cannot make sense of. Jung proposed a third path, a deliberate, structured conversation with the parts of yourself that have been silent. You sit quietly. You ask one question, not what should I do with my life, but something simpler and more honest. What have I been afraid to feel? And then you write, without editing, without judging, without trying to make it make sense. You let what has been living in the dark come into the light on the page. Jung found that this practice, done consistently accelerated the return of genuine motivation. Not because it gave people answers, but because it gave the buried self a voice. And a self that feels heard does not need to go on strike anymore. The second practice is grieving the old self on purpose. This sounds simple. It is not simple. Most people try to move past their old identity by ignoring it, by deciding it was false, releasing it, and moving forward as if nothing real was lost. Jung said, this is one of the most common mistakes in psychological transformation. Because even if the persona was a mask, it was your mask. It protected you. It got you through. It gave you a shape when you needed one, and letting it go without acknowledging what it gave you is like leaving a relationship without grieving it. The feelings do not disappear, they go underground. So Jung recommended something that sounds almost ceremonial. Write a letter to your old self, not a therapeutic exercise, a real letter. Name what that version of you wanted. Acknowledge what it was really trying to protect you from. Thank it honestly, and then, clearly and consciously, let it go. The more consciously you grieve it, the less unconsciously you cling to it. The third practice is following aliveness instead of logic. This is the hardest one for high-achieving, analytical people, and it is the most important. Jung observed that when the persona dissolves, the deepest self, what he called the self with a capital S, begins to communicate. But it does not communicate in plans or goals or 5-year roadmaps. It communicates in aliveness, in the quiet pull towards certain things, in inexplicable fascination, in the strange, irrational sense that something matters even when you cannot explain why. He called this symbolic living, orienting your choices, even small daily choices, toward what makes you feel more real rather than what makes you look more successful. A lawyer who keeps feeling drawn to pottery, a corporate executive who cannot stop thinking about teaching, someone who spent years chasing achievement and suddenly finds themselves moved by very ordinary moments of beauty. Jung said follow those signals, not recklessly, not by quitting everything tomorrow, but by treating them as data, by saying, whatever is pulling at me is worth paying attention to, even if it does not make strategic sense yet. Now I want to describe what happens on the other side of this, because most people never hear this part clearly enough. The motivation that comes back after the void is not the same kind you lost. It is not louder. It is not more urgent. In fact, if you are still measuring motivation by urgency, by that anxious, grinding, have-to energy, you will likely miss it entirely when it arrives. It feels quieter, steadier. It does not push. It pulls. You feel it not in your head as a list of things to accomplish, but in your body as a kind of warmth. A kind of yes, a sense of rightness that does not need anyone else to validate it. Jung documented what patients said when they found this new quality of motivation. They said things like, I feel like I am finally doing something that belongs to me, or I am not trying to get anywhere. I just feel like I'm expressing what I am, or simply, I forgot it could feel like this. That feeling of expression rather than performance, of moving towards something rather than away from fear, is what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming, at last, coherently and completely yourself. It does not arrive as a revelation. It arrives as a quiet morning where you notice you actually want to do something, where getting out of bed does not feel like an act of willpower, where the work, whatever form it takes, feels less like a task and more like an extension of who you are. That is what is waiting on the other side of the void, not a new and better version of your old self, an entirely different relationship with living. Here is where I want to leave you, and here is something specific to take with you. Jung believed that the authentic life cannot be planned, it can only be listened into, and the listening begins with one practice done daily that costs you nothing but 10 minutes and a notebook. Every morning, before you check your phone, before you start the day, sit quietly and ask yourself one question in writing. What part of me have I not been letting speak? Not what should I do? Not what do I want? Just that. What part of me have I not been letting speak? Write whatever comes. Do not edit it. Do not judge it. Do not ask whether it is practical or sensible or something you can build a career around. Just receive it. Do that for 30 days and pay attention to what keeps returning. Because Jung believed, and his patients proved, that the authentic self never stops trying to reach you. It simply waits until you are quiet enough to hear it. You are not a stranger to yourself. You are just in the part of the story where you have not yet been properly introduced. That introduction is coming, and it begins exactly where you are right now, in the silence, in the stillness, in the space where the old self has stepped aside and something true is slowly learning to stand. If this reached something in you, drop one word in the comments that describes where you are right now. Just one word. You might be surprised what it tells you. And if you know someone sitting in that strange, hollow, post-awakening quiet, wondering if they have broken themselves somehow, send them this. It might be the thing that helps them name what they are carrying. I will see you in the next one.